Have you ever walked away from a conversation, a relationship, or even a life decision, only to feel that quiet sting of regret? That gut feeling whispering, "I should have known better." What if I told you that foolishness isn't about how smart you are, but how blind we can be to warning signs we ignore every single day? Before we dive in, take a second, subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, and watch this video till the very end. Because these 5 warning signs don't just apply to random mistakes. They shape the very foundation of your relationships, your career, your peace of mind. Understanding them could save you from heartbreak, wasted years, and emotional pain that you never saw coming. Let me take you back to a story, one you might find a little too familiar. There was a guy named Darren, smart, ambitious, always cracking jokes, but somehow his life kept circling the same emotional drain. He'd invest his time in people who never truly cared, chase approval from those who barely noticed him, and avoid every hard truth that could have set him free. On the outside, he looked fine. Inside, he was living on emotional autopilot. It wasn't because Darren was unintelligent, it was because he was being foolish. And foolishness, unlike ignorance, is not about lacking knowledge, it's about ignoring what we already know. So let's dig into the 5 warning signs you're being foolish. And as we go through each one, think of where it shows up in your own life, especially your love life. Because the people we let in often reflect how we treat ourselves. Warning sign number 1, you keep giving second chances to people who don't deserve first ones. Let me ask you something personal. Have you ever loved someone so deeply that you started making excuses for their bad behavior? Have you ever been in a situation where someone hurt you, yet you found yourself forgiving them again and again, just hoping that maybe this time they'd change? Think about that person for a second. Maybe it was a lover, someone who once looked you in the eyes and made you feel like the only person in the world. Remember the way they touched your hand like it was the most precious thing they'd ever held? The way your heart raced at their texts? The way you stayed up talking all night? Like time had stopped just for the two of you? Now remember how it started to shift. The first time they said something cruel, and then followed it with, "I didn't mean it, you're too sensitive." The first time they ignored your message for hours, and came back with, "I was just busy, you overthink too much." The first time they broke a promise. The first time they made you cry, and yet you forgave them. Why? Because you believed in love? Because you didn't want to lose the beautiful beginning? Or maybe, just maybe, because deep down, you hoped that if you just held on a little longer, things would go back to the way they used to be. But let me tell you something that might sting a little. That person you keep giving chances to, the one who disappears when you need them, the one who takes more than they give, the one who turns your love into a question mark instead of a safe place. They didn't even deserve the first chance. And yet, here you are, handing them the 5th. This is the heartbreaking truth. Being foolish doesn't always look like being reckless. Sometimes, it looks like being overly loyal to someone who's only loyal to their own needs. Let me take you into a story. There was a woman named Arya, sweet, selfless, full of dreams. She met a guy named Eli. He was charming, funny, magnetic, the kind of guy who could light up a room and make you feel like you were the only one in it. For the first few weeks, it felt like magic. Long drives, deep conversations, late-night kisses that made her forget every bad day. But then, the shift. He started replying late, canceling plans last minute. Slowly, "I miss you" turned into, "I've been busy." The calls got shorter. The warmth began to fade. But every time Arya felt it slipping, Eli would throw her a little breadcrumb, just enough affection to keep her hoping. A compliment here, a quick apology there. "You know I care about you, right?" And Arya? She clung to those crumbs like they were a full meal. She didn't want to seem needy. She didn't want to be the girl who couldn't take a joke or be chill. So she kept quiet. She forgave. She rationalized. She convinced herself that love was about patience, not realizing that she wasn't being patient. She was being played. Now here's where it gets real. How many times have you been Arya? How many times have you stayed because you remembered the beginning, not because the present deserved your presence? See, this is what foolishness looks like when you're in love. It looks like self-sacrifice disguised as loyalty. It looks like forgiving someone, not because they changed, but because you want them to. It looks like seeing the same pattern over and over again, but hoping this time it'll be different. Let me ask you, when was the last time you felt truly safe with someone? I'm talking about the kind of safe where you could be completely raw, completely real, without the fear of being ignored, judged, or abandoned. If you can't remember, you might be giving chances to someone who's draining your soul instead of feeding it. Now, I'm not saying people can't change, but real change doesn't come through begging. It doesn't come because you love them hard enough. It comes when someone sees the damage they've caused and chooses, on their own, to do better. Most people, they just wait for you to forget, and the more chances you give, the more they learn what you'll tolerate. Here's the hardest part to accept. Sometimes the person you're trying to heal with your love is the exact person who's making you feel broken in the first place. Let that sink in. That gut feeling you get when something's off, that hesitation in your heart when they say, "I promise," that voice in your head saying, "This isn't right," that's not insecurity. That's your inner wisdom waving red flags. Foolishness is when we ignore those flags because we're scared of letting go. But let me flip the script for you. What if walking away isn't weakness, but strength? What if not giving another chance is the bravest thing you can do? What if your heart isn't meant to be handed to just anyone who asks, but reserved for someone who sees it, respects it, and protects it like it's sacred? You've cried enough nights. You've waited long enough for texts that didn't come. You've defended someone who never defended you. That's not love. That's you being loyal to someone who doesn't even show up for themselves. You don't need to be cold-hearted to stop giving second chances. You just need to finally believe that you deserve more. More than late replies, more than empty promises, more than the constant wondering if you're too much or not enough. You deserve the kind of love that doesn't require pain as proof. And yes, it's scary. Walking away feels like failure. It feels like giving up on someone you once believed in. But the truth? You're not giving up on them. You're finally choosing yourself. That's not foolish. That's wisdom. So if you're watching this and you feel a lump in your throat right now, if you're remembering that person who keeps leaving and returning like you're a hotel instead of a home, then hear this. It's okay to let go. You are not obligated to keep proving your worth to someone who can't even see it. You are not foolish for loving them, but you'd be foolish to keep sacrificing yourself just to keep them. So take a breath, let the past stay in the past, and choose a future where your heart is valued, not tested. Because your story, the one where you stop giving chances to those who abuse them, that's where the healing begins. And trust me, the love you deserve is waiting on the other side of your courage. Stick around, because the next point we're diving into might just shift the way you speak up in your relationships forever. With that said, let's keep going. Warning sign number 2, you always try to prove yourself to others. Let me ask you something quietly, something personal. Have you ever looked into the mirror and felt that who you are just isn't enough? Have you ever bent over backward, trying to show someone, maybe your partner, your friends, your family, that you're worth loving, worth choosing, worth keeping? Maybe it's in the way you dress up just a little more when you know you'll see them, or the way you send long, heartfelt messages trying to fix what you didn't even break, or how you suppress your truth just to avoid being too much. Sound familiar? If so, let me tell you something you may not have realized yet. You've been fighting a silent war against yourself, and the battlefield is your worth. Let's go deeper. Imagine a guy named Rian. Smart, thoughtful, loyal to the core. He was dating someone named Maya, an incredibly charming, confident woman who seemed to have it all together. In the beginning, it felt electric. She would shower him with attention, say all the right things, make him feel like the most important man alive. But slowly, little shifts began to happen. She'd tease him about not making enough money, compare him to her ex, question why he wasn't more ambitious or why he couldn't be more alpha. Rian, who once felt secure in who he was, started questioning everything. He started staying longer at work, just so he could afford gifts she didn't ask for but made him feel pressured to give. He tried speaking with more confidence, changing his style, adjusting his opinions to align with hers, and even when he gave his all, she'd still pull away, still criticize, still make him feel not quite good enough. And yet, Rian kept trying. Why? Because he thought if he could just prove his worth, she'd finally stay. That's where many of us fall into the trap of foolishness disguised as devotion. Let me ask you this. When was the last time you truly felt seen, without having to earn it? Think about it. If someone only values you when you impress them, if someone's love feels like a prize you have to constantly win, is it really love? Or just a test? Foolishness often hides behind effort. We keep trying, keep giving, keep proving. not realizing that in doing so, we're actually saying to ourselves, I'm not enough as I am. And that belief? It's the most dangerous lie we can carry in our hearts. See, love shouldn't feel like a performance. You shouldn't have to rehearse your lines just to be accepted. You shouldn't have to shrink your feelings to fit someone's comfort zone. You ever remember how you were as a child? Before the world told you to be more cool, more attractive, more likable? Back then, your joy wasn't performative. You didn't try to prove your worth, you just were. You played. You laughed. You asked questions. You cried when you were hurt. And the people who loved you didn't need you to earn it. They just gave it freely. Somewhere along the way, we started associating love with effort. Not the kind of effort that comes from care, but the kind that comes from fear. Fear of being abandoned. Fear of not being chosen. Fear of being less than. And that fear is what keeps us stuck in relationships, where we feel we constantly have to measure up. Let me ask you something deeper. What have you done to be chosen that left you feeling more lost than loved? Have you ever gone out of your way, done things that went against your values, or tried to be someone you're not just to be accepted? Do you see it now? That voice in your head that says, be better, be more, don't mess up. It's not your truth. It's your trauma. It's the echo of all the times someone made you feel unworthy. And every time you try to prove yourself to someone who doesn't already see your value, you're not showing strength. You're revealing your wounds. Let me tell you a truth that will change the way you see yourself. The right person will never need convincing. They won't make you feel like you have to compete with others to be chosen. They won't measure your worth by your job title, your salary, your body, or your popularity. They will love your quirks. They will lean into your flaws. They will hold your vulnerability like it's sacred. They will never make you prove you're enough, because to them, you already are. So why do we keep trying to prove ourselves to the ones who keep us uncertain? Because deep down, we believe love is earned through suffering. That the more we give, the more we change, the more we prove, the more we'll be loved. But here's the catch. Real love doesn't feel like a courtroom. It feels like a home. You don't stand on trial. You don't plead your case. You don't need evidence to be held close. If you're with someone who constantly makes you question your value, if you find yourself rehearsing your words, silencing your truth, and pretending just to be enough, then you're not in a relationship, you're in a performance. And baby, you were never born to be an actor in someone else's play. You were born to be fully you. So let me say this to the part of you that's tired. You don't have to try so hard. You don't have to prove anything. You don't have to become someone else to be loved. You just have to remember who you are. Let go of the people who make your love feel like a competition. Walk away from those who only want the version of you that benefits them. Stand tall in your truth. Speak your feelings without fear. Be raw, real, and radiant, because proving yourself is a battle you'll never win. But accepting yourself, that's the kind of power that changes everything, including the love you attract. If this felt like your story, stay with me, because in the next part, we'll uncover something even deeper, how the fear of being alone can make you stay in places you were never meant to be. Warning sign number 3, you stay silent even when you're hurt. Let me ask you a raw, unfiltered question. How many times have you swallowed your pain just to keep someone else comfortable? You know what I'm talking about. Those moments when your heart was aching, your chest felt heavy, your soul was screaming, but your lips stayed quiet. You wanted to say something. You wanted to be heard, but instead you said nothing. Why? Because you didn't want to start a fight. Because you didn't want to seem too emotional. Because you were afraid they'd leave if you showed how deeply you actually felt. If you're nodding right now, let me tell you something. That silence isn't strength. That silence is suffering. Let me tell you about Zara, a woman with a soft voice and a storm in her heart. She was in love with a man named Ayan. From the outside, they looked perfect, cute photos, sweet dates, warm hugs. But behind those smiles were unspoken wounds. Ayan had a habit of making little jokes at Zara's expense. He would forget her birthday plans, cancel dates last minute, dismiss her feelings with a laugh and a, "You're overthinking again." And every time she wanted to speak up, every time her throat tightened with the need to say, "This hurts me," she swallowed it down. Because she didn't want to seem needy, because she thought maybe it was all in her head, because she was afraid that if she opened her heart, it would scare him away. So instead of expressing her truth, she smiled through tears. She said, "It's fine." She said, "I understand." She said, "Don't worry about it." But inside, She was bleeding, and every time she silenced herself, she carved a deeper wound into her own heart. Not from what Ayan did, but from what she let herself endure without ever saying a word. Tell me, have you ever done that? Have you ever laid in bed replaying a conversation you never had? Have you ever cried in the shower because the one you loved the most didn't even notice they hurt you? That silence we carry, it's not peace. It's a prison. We're taught from an early age that love means compromise, but too often we confuse compromise with self-abandonment. We start believing that if we speak up, we'll lose the person we love. But let me ask you this. What kind of love requires you to erase yourself just to keep it? Real love doesn't punish your vulnerability. It welcomes it. It leans in when you say, hey, that hurt. But if you're in a situation where your pain is dismissed, your silence is expected, and your feelings are treated like inconvenience, you're not in love. You're in fear. And fear makes us foolish. It convinces us that silence is safer than truth, that hiding our emotions makes us stronger, that protecting their peace matters more than protecting our own heart. But listen to me. Every time you stay silent when you're hurt, you teach them how to treat you. You show them that it's okay to ignore your needs. You show them that they can wound you without consequence. You show them that your boundaries are flexible, or worse, non-existent. And the more you stay quiet, the more you begin to believe the lie that your pain isn't valid. But it is. It always has been. Let me take you back to your very first heartbreak. Do you remember the first time someone broke your trust? Not necessarily cheated or lied, but maybe they ignored you, belittled you, or made you feel invisible. And do you remember how you reacted? If you're like most of us, you probably stayed silent. You probably told yourself, it's not that big a deal. You probably smiled and moved on, hoping things would change. But they didn't, did they? Because silence doesn't create change. It creates cycles. Cycles of quiet suffering. Cycles of being overlooked. Cycles of holding in so much pain that one day you either explode or collapse. That's not love. That's slow erosion of your soul. Now, don't get me wrong. Communication isn't easy. It's terrifying to say what you did hurt me. But here's what's even scarier. Living your entire life pretending everything's okay when you're slowly dying inside. So let me speak directly to your heart. You are not too much. You are not too sensitive. You are not crazy for feeling deeply. You're human, and humans deserve to be heard, especially in love. Real love makes space for discomfort. It creates room for difficult conversations. It doesn't shame you for your feelings, it holds them with care. So if you find yourself staying quiet to keep the peace, if you bite your tongue just to avoid another argument, if you hide your tears because you don't want to be dramatic, you're not protecting the relationship. You're sacrificing yourself for a love that's not safe. Speak up, say what hurts.
Say what you need.
Not because it's easy, but because you're worth it. And if they leave after you speak your truth, then let them go. Because someone who truly loves you won't run from your honesty. They'll honor it. You don't have to scream. You don't have to argue. You just have to speak with calm clarity and courage. You deserve to be in a love where your pain matters, where your voice is heard, where silence isn't your only option. Remember this, your truth isn't a burden. It's a boundary, and boundaries don't push the right people away. They keep the wrong people from getting too close. So let your voice rise. Let your heart be heard. Let your truth set you free. And as you walk through this journey of healing, remember, you were never meant to shrink your soul to fit someone else's comfort. Warning sign number 4. You let people walk over you in the name of love. Let me ask you something deeply personal. Have you ever let someone hurt you? Over and over again just because you loved them? Think about that for a moment. Think about that one person you gave your heart to. The one you bent your boundaries for. The one you forgave not once, not twice, but countless times, hoping that this time they'd finally see your worth. And what did you get in return? Let me tell you the story of Ravi. He was the kind of guy who believed that love meant patience, kindness, understanding. You know, the good stuff we're all taught to give when we love someone. He met Arohi in college. She was bold, unpredictable, and effortlessly charming. He was quiet, steady, and loyal to the core. It started beautifully. Long night calls, endless texts. Holding hands like the world around them didn't matter. But soon things began to shift. Arohi started ignoring his texts. She began flirting with other guys openly, shamelessly. She forgot about the little things that mattered to Ravi. His birthday, just a passing mention. His achievements, barely noticed. His feelings, laughed off. But Ravi kept loving. When his friends warned him, She's using you. He defended her. When his own heart cried for respect, he shut it up. He thought, maybe if I love her more, she'll finally treat me right. So he tolerated the cold silences. He swallowed the jealousy. He kept saying it's okay even when it was far from okay. Why? Because he thought love meant sacrifice. He thought enduring pain was proof of how strong his love was. But here's the truth nobody told Ravi. And maybe no one told you either. Love doesn't require you to lose yourself. Letting someone walk over you isn't love. It's self-betrayal dressed up as loyalty. And I know, sometimes the fear of losing them is so loud, you silence your own soul to keep them close. But if staying means breaking your own heart daily, ask yourself, what exactly are you holding on to? Now I want you to pause. Think about your story. Have you ever done what Ravi did? Maybe it wasn't as dramatic. Maybe it was subtle. Like that time you said yes when you really wanted to say no, or when you accepted blame for something. That wasn't your fault just to avoid a fight. Or when you stayed quiet as they crossed a boundary. Telling yourself it's not a big deal, but it was a big deal. Because every time you let someone disrespect you in the name of love, you taught them that it was okay. You showed them that your forgiveness had no limits, that your kindness was endless, that your boundaries were optional. And that, my friend, is how foolishness grows quietly inside love. You see, people don't just use you. You allow it when you love blindly, when you believe that love is more important than self-respect, when you convince yourself that loyalty means staying, no matter how badly you're treated. But here's something powerful to remember. True love doesn't need you to be a doormat. It needs you to be a doorway to truth, respect, and mutual growth. I know, it's hard. Walking away feels like failure. Standing up for yourself feels like rebellion. Saying I deserve better feels selfish. But it's not. It's brave. It's healing. It's the beginning of loving yourself the way you've loved others. Let me ask you, do you remember your first heartbreak? Do you remember how you gave someone your whole heart, expecting they'd protect it, but they dropped it instead? You cried. You questioned everything. Was I not enough? Should I have tried harder? Maybe I deserved it. No, you didn't. You were just too kind in the face of cruelty, too patient when you should have set a boundary, too in love to realize that real love doesn't come with emotional bruises. And yet we repeat it, again and again, because love has a way of making us believe that suffering is noble, that staying is strength, that walking away is weakness. But I want to flip that for you today. Walking away when you're being disrespected isn't weakness. It's wisdom. It's finally saying, I choose me. It's realizing that you're not meant to be an emotional punching bag, that your softness doesn't mean you should be stepped on. Ravi, he finally broke. One day after Arohi forgot yet another promise. He sat alone in the park, the same one where they first held hands. And he asked himself a painful question. Why do I love someone who doesn't even like me? That night he didn't call her. He didn't text. He didn't explain. He just walked away. And the silence that once scared him, it finally gave him peace. It wasn't easy. He cried. He doubted. He missed her. But for the first time in years, he was finally loving someone who wouldn't betray him himself. So to you watching this video, if you're in love but losing yourself, step back. If you're constantly forgiving but never receiving, rethink. If you're always hurting, always giving, always bending, pause. Love should never cost you your dignity, your peace, your sanity. Let me ask you, who are you becoming in the name of love? And is that someone you recognize? Is that someone you're proud of? Or have you become a version of yourself you never meant to be, one who's always giving, never receiving, always hoping, never healing? It's time to stop being walked over. Time to stop believing that pain proves your love. Time to believe that you deserve more, not just from them, but from yourself. Because when you finally choose you don't lose love, you lose the illusion. And what you gain? Freedom, self-respect, and one day, a love that actually feels like home. Warning sign number 5. You keep ignoring the truth in front of you. Let me ask you a difficult question. Have you ever known deep down that someone didn't truly love you, but you stayed anyway? Not because they told you they loved you, not because their actions proved it, but because you were afraid of what it would mean if you admitted the truth. Think back for a moment to that one relationship where everything looked fine from the outside. but deep down your heart whispered something's wrong. Let me tell you about Niharika. She was with a guy named Arjun for 3 years. Everyone thought they were perfect, Instagram-worthy, happy couple photos, vacation reels matching outfits, but behind those smiling pictures was a woman drowning in confusion. Arjun was never fully present. He canceled plans last minute. He never remembered the small things that mattered to her. Sometimes when she texted him long paragraphs about how she felt, he'd just reply with a dry, okay. But every time she thought about leaving, her mind clung to one memory. The first time he said, "I love you," that night under the stars. His eyes looked honest, and for that moment, she believed she was everything to him. So even when the love started to fade, she convinced herself it was just a phase, that he was busy, that he was tired, that one day he'd come back to how he used to be. But he never did. The truth was always there, in the way he barely looked up from his phone when she talked, in the way he made her feel like a burden instead of a blessing, in the way her presence didn't light him up anymore, it just filled silence. But Niharika kept ignoring it, because sometimes it's easier to hold on to a fantasy than to face reality. And maybe you've done that too. Maybe you're doing it right now. Maybe you know they're not really in love with you anymore. Maybe you feel it in your gut, but you're afraid that if you admit it, your whole world will collapse. So you keep pretending. You laugh when it's not funny. You kiss them even when it feels empty. You post happy photos hoping the world will believe it. So maybe you will too. But deep down, you know the truth. And here's the painful part. When you ignore the truth, you give it permission to hurt you quietly. When you stop ignoring the truth, 3 things happen. 1, you start seeing things as they are, not as you hope they'll be. And yes, it might hurt, but it also clears the fog. 2, you stop justifying the things you once excused, because love shouldn't have to be defended with maybe they didn't mean it or they're just busy. 3, you reclaim your power, because when you face the truth, you take your heart out of their hands and place it gently back in yours. It's not weakness to admit something's wrong. It's courage. It means you value your peace more than pretense. It means you love yourself enough to walk away from what's fake. And trust me, what's real will never need you to ignore your instincts to keep it alive. Remember this, real love makes you feel seen. Fake love makes you feel confused, and ignored truth makes you feel lost. So stop hiding from what your heart already knows. Stop clinging to the hope that love will magically fix itself without effort. Look at your reflection. Ask yourself, am I happy or am I just surviving in this relationship? And if the answer makes your chest feel heavy, then maybe, just maybe, you already know what to do. Niharika eventually faced it. One evening, after waiting 2 hours at a cafe while Arjun forgot to show up again. She didn't cry. She just sat there watching couples laugh around her, and for the first time in years, she admitted the truth out loud. He doesn't love me anymore. She walked out of that cafe with trembling hands, but steady feet, because when the truth finally hits you, it may shatter your illusions, but it also sets you free. You owe yourself that freedom too. So if you're watching this right now, feeling a sting in your chest, hearing echoes of your own relationship in these words, that's your heart trying to get your attention. Don't silence it. Don't ignore it. Because healing begins the moment you stop pretending. Let's take a breath. All of us, every single one of us, has played the fool. We've chased people who didn't love us, stayed silent when we should have spoken, numbed the pain instead of healing it, and sometimes we've ignored that small, quiet voice inside us that simply said, "This isn't right." But here's the shift. The moment you see the foolishness, it begins to lose its power. You begin to trade self-betrayal for self-respect. You stop settling for crumbs and start demanding meals. You stop running from your wounds and start cleaning them out even when it hurts. And that's where wisdom begins. Not in having all the answers, but in finally asking the right questions. So let me ask you, where in your life are you pretending not to know the truth? Where are you giving too many chances? Hiding behind fake kindness? Chasing pleasure instead of peace? Moving without purpose? Ignoring your inner wisdom? Because the second you get honest about those things, that's the second your life starts to change. Especially in love. Because love doesn't just come from others. It begins with the way you treat yourself, the boundaries you keep, the truth you speak, the peace you protect. So don't just watch this video and move on. Sit with it. Replay the parts that made your chest feel tight. Journal what hit you hardest. Ask yourself what foolishness you're ready to let go of. Because your future self, the one who's calm, grounded, respected, and loved, depends on what you choose to stop tolerating today. And if no one has told you this recently, you deserve a life built on wisdom, not wounds. A life where your love isn't just given freely, but protected fiercely. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.